So first off, we have the matter of the next hardcore video. I think we should make a must-needed bamboo and sugarcane farm taking advantage of the brand new 1.20 features. Alright, what do you think, argument 2? There's a new mob, maybe we could play around with those. And what advantage would that bring? It's easy. And if we're going to be making a really cool bamboo slash sugarcane farm over here in my industrial district, we're going to need bamboo and sugarcane, and sadly my supplies are looking somewhat lacking. Yeah, I may have sort of splurged on my mansion a bit. So luckily bamboo is a really easy solution, kind of just to spray it down like that. Come here in like a minute or two and bam, all the bamboo's back. Sugarcane's going to be a bit more of a problem though. I mean, it takes it hours to grow and I don't have that much. This is definitely going to be a problem, but luckily I don't really have to worry about that. What I do have to worry about though is where I'm going to put this farm, and what I'm thinking is right here would be nice, especially since it's a nice open area. It's kind of a long flat and it'll work pretty much perfectly, plus the farm's going to be elevated, which makes storage so much easier because basically I'm going to be sending the bamboo and sugarcane straight through here where it's going to be automatically sorted in this system with all my other items like my iron and my various monster parts. So now what I have to actually worry about is, well, placement, I guess. Like, I need to line the hoppers up with right here, and that would make it super easy. But that does mean the farm's gonna be in the air, and that's gonna make transportation a bit easy, because if you've seen my latest tutorials, then you'll know I'll be using Ravagers for this, which is always both a treat and a nightmare. On the topic of nightmares, the village near my industrial district has decided to cease to exist, so now I have to go and repopulate it by shoving villagers in boats. Do they not like rafts? Hey, I have cats here? What the heck, dude? One thing I do like about the new raft is it's so much easier to work with. Hold up. Do mobs not go in boats anymore? Or at least villagers don't? Now that I think about it, I think my Ravager back at home... Okay, phew. I was starting to worry there. My Ravager back at home started sort of glitched out of its boat as well, and so I was starting to think that maybe they decided to remove animals and rafts, but I guess not. I have no fishing rods nearby. So let me put my, I'm sorry. Oh, that hurt. That hurt really bad. I'm just gonna catch these villagers and stick them somewhere. What the heck? What the heck? These villagers just had a child while I was... you know what? I'm not gonna question it. I'm just not gonna question it, and I'm just gonna keep moving this boat. One thing I do like about these new 1.20 rafts is that, well, their hitbox is a bit more defined. I don't know if that's true or not, but it feels like it, or at least it's easier to see with them. But anyways, I'm finding it much easier to put leads and take mobs out of a boat, like break the boat, than I did with regular boats. So now I just need to kind of push these guys over yonder. I'm going to try to avoid going straight through my industrial district just because I do have an iron farm. And for those of you who know anything about bedrock iron farms, if pretty much any villagers interfere with it, they do cause breaks in the farm. And so preferably I'd like to avoid that, but what I could do is like over here I could set up a villager box, I'm thinking. And I could just use them as my current, well, Ravager collection area, so that's what I think I'm gonna do. I guess I don't have to breed them at all. I don't think I do at any rate, because as long as they're kept in a safe area with beds, they are still technically villagers. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna keep my villagers in a box up here and use them to get raids done. Now that my villagers are in the latest of anti-pillaging technologies, I think it's time to stop doing prep work and actually start on the actual farms. Now for this farm, I'm gonna need rails, sugarcane, bamboo, sand, and a load of building block. I am currently over at my industrial district, and I have two things to say. Number one, I cannot stand these Vindicators. They drive me completely insane, and I should have gone with a different killing mechanism. Number two, I need to get a plan down. So basically, for this video, what I want to do is, first off, I want to build a sugarcane farm. Well, sugarcane and bamboo, but more importantly, sugarcane. Because despite the fact that bamboo is now super useful, these is literally my last 20 rockets. So I kind of have to use them sparingly. And number two, I kind of want to get some decoration up. This place is looking incredibly ugly, and I want to change that. So for now, I need to work on the farm. So this little wood pillar behind me is just marking out where the farm's going to start. It's a couple blocks above the collection chamber. It's going to be at least just so that I can mess about with the hoppers if I need to. But for now, this is all I need. Now, I need to decide a base block for the farm. And I'm thinking stone bricks because as much as I used them so much in this area, they're cheap, they're easy to get, and that kind of just makes everything easy. So I could either do stone bricks or I could get a design going, but for the design, it's gonna be quite challenging, and to be frank, I'm kind of lazy. Maybe I'll pop into my creative test world and see if I can make something. Alright, so it's been a fair minute since the last clip, and well, there are a few things I'd actually like to mention. Number one, it's raining. It always rains when I record, and that just makes me sad. Number two, I'm wearing a new skin, and that is because I thought it would be fun to wear an archaeology-themed skin for the archaeology update, and since it is, well, not exactly update day, but the day after, I think it's a fitting skin for at least this video. And yes, I know what you're thinking, you
change your skin every other video.
Yes, I do. It's kind of an addiction, and I really need to stop with that. And finally, you may notice there's a little bit of a moss border behind me, and that is because, yes, I have a design for this. I had to work it out in creative. I haven't even finished it all in creative, but I can at least start off on it. And well, this is a design, and basically I have to start off with moss, fill this up with stone, and then get to work on the farm. Then I can actually start making the real parts of it. But this is actually going to be part of the farm as well as a decoration, so it is very important that it looks like this. A little bit of a progress update. I have gotten an area down for the minecart track, and I really am just kind of waiting for my iron farm to make enough iron where I feel safe to make a minecart track, because over here in this iron chest we have a fair bit of iron, and it's been growing constantly because obviously the golem farm has been running. But the problem is minecarts are expensive, especially covering an area like that, so it might take me a little while, so I'm just gonna kind of wait for that to catch up and then place a bunch of minecarts. A sufficient amount of time has passed, and I've managed to get some rails down. It's really just some markers and things to keep the rails in place, but it is definitely a start. So you may notice it's a different pattern than the one in my bamboo farm video, and that is because, well, I am tweaking the farm a bit just to make it slightly more efficient over here in this world, and in order to do that I need the Ravagers on a lower cart, which means that it's pointless to have rails running down here because they won't be picking up anything. Anyways, this was pain, because let me just show you how rails work in Minecraft Bedrock. For those Java players, I'm not sure if it's the same, but basically if we were to have a rail like this, it's pretty good, and that's what I need, right? Like back here I need a rail like that. But the minute I place a rail down like that, it goes sideways, and that caused me so much problems because you have to do this, and then you have to do that, and then you have to take out the loops, and it's so much trouble, and it's definitely annoying. So that took me a very long time to do, and I'm glad that it's over, and now that they're all kind of molded, I don't really have to worry about that anymore. So another thing I'd like to mention was, originally I thought I wasn't making any more iron. I was like, oh no, what have I done? Why did my farm break? It turns out my farm did not break. What did break was this right here. I had put some scaffolding here to access these hoppers a little while back ago, but what happened was there was one piece of scaffolding right here, which meant the redstone signal can go through here and bud power this hopper. This froze everything in there, meaning that no items were getting filtered through. And I'm sorry it's so horribly loud, but it's just I'm over in an industrial district. It's gonna be loud. So yeah, that was unfortunate, but luckily I was able to catch it before the farm got too backed up and broke. I have some good news, and that good news is that the rails are finally in place, and they look very good. I am not entirely sure if they work, so what I'm going to do is grab me some iron and just double check that they work, because I might have messed that up, and they probably don't work at all. So basically what I have to do is just grab 5 iron here, and just a quick little YouTube thing. When I'm recording, I actually like to talk a lot, but a lot of it doesn't make into the videos just because it's during segments like that where I'm just doing absolutely nothing, like digging through my chests, and it's kind of just like I'm talking about literally nothing because I need to get something like in for that segment. So that's just a bit of information. I don't really know why I just shared that, but as I mentioned before, it's because I am literally just talking about crap before I test something. Yep. Alright then, I need to mess about with this for a bit. So now I have good news and bad news. The good news is I found the solution to my rail system's problem. The bad news is I'm gonna need considerably more gold, so that means I have to fire up my gold farm, making my already very, very laggy world incredibly more laggy. So I'm gonna just sit in my little AFK part of my gold farm. As you can see, blocks can't even register being destroyed. And now I kind of just need to sit here for like 20 minutes. Hopefully this thing will sort itself out. After many, many mistakes, I was finally able to get the proper amount of rails in, and the cart now works almost perfectly. As you can see, it kind of slows down and speeds up, slows down, speeds up. Not too happy about that, but I don't think there's anything I could do with that as of right now. I could kind of hop into the car and see what happens when I ride it. And yeah, it works perfectly, except for the fact that it is a little slow. I've determined the reason that it doesn't work as well is because there are so many entities going on in this area that they just generate so much lag that freezes up the car, which basically makes it harder for this thing to move. So the good news is, though, this step is done, and I can now move on to some of the less intricate parts of the system. After reviewing that clip, I of course realized there was a problem with the rails in that whenever I went through and back, usually what was supposed to happen was the rails were supposed to stop, and then if I click the button again, it would send it back. That of course didn't work because I did not line it up properly, but luckily I have gotten everything in working order. And so that means now I am pretty much free to work on the rest of the farm. I've just put all the sand in place, and the good news is this means that I am moving pretty far along on the farm. Basically now I just need to get some water and bamboo in here. Um, if you're wondering why I need water, this is also going to double as a sugar cane, so that's why I need the water. But something I'd like to quickly note is I use sand, and that's just because I like the way it looks. There is no other reason I used it. I mean, it's cool looking. I think it's a lighter color. And it looks kind of weird when there's dirt in there. This does not improve the efficiency whatsoever, but I just like the way it looks. So this is pretty much, I would say, the halfway point on the farm. Yeah, it's roughly the halfway point. Basically, now I just have to plant the bamboo and actually grab the Ravagers, and a few extra steps like on the sides. But something I'm going to need to do soon is actually go resource gathering, because there are some pretty weird blocks I'm going to need not only for decorating the farm, but for the actual farm itself. So I am probably going to go do that soon, but first off, let me get some plants in here. Okay, so I've planted what little bamboo I've had, and something you may notice is there's some pretty big gaps in there, and the reason is because if you know anything about bamboo in this game, it grows kind of funky where it'll grow in the corners of blocks and stuff like that. But basically, if it's in a corner inwards like this, the Ravagers for the farm cannot reach the bamboo, meaning that those pieces will be useless. So what I'll be doing for these parts is I'll actually be putting sugarcane there. That way it'll still be able to grow something even though it won't be able to grow bamboo. So basically sugarcane is going to go in the crevices that bamboo can't grow in because of the way it works, and then sugarcane's also going to grow in this middle slot. That way I basically just have enough sugarcane, but the farm is still getting a good amount of bamboo in. So I am actually really happy about that solution. That was one of the original problems of the farm, but luckily I've been able to solve it just by adding sugarcane to it, so that is pretty good. I now have to actually work on getting enough bamboo to fill up this whole thing, but then I'm good to start actually the next pretty grindy part, which I'm not too happy about. While I was waiting for the bamboo to grow, I decided to start work on the next part, which is placing stairs where I could put the water in. That way I can actually grow the sugarcane for the farm. So I finished planting the bamboo, and I got a little carried away, as in I planted all the bamboo, placed most of the sugarcane, put the stairs in, and put water in them, so got a little carried away there. Did not mean to do that much, but yeah, I kinda did. Another thing I also did was I installed the minecart hoppers into the farm, which it means that this thing is practically finished. I kinda just need to harvest what little sugarcane has grown, and keep planting it in the places over here so that I could just, up efficiency on the farm. I really did lose track of time while working on this though, because the entire time I was working on this, I usually I get so bored during this task, but I ended up getting in a conversation with somebody about, oddly enough, Eminem's Rap God song. Yeah, really random conversation. But we just talked about that for legit hours, and I got all this done. I'm not sure how that happened and what series of events in my life caused that to happen, but it did, and I am happy that it happened because I'm now finished with the hard part of this farm, and yeah, that was the hard part, surprisingly, not catching rabid monsters. Alright, so I'm not gonna lie about this next little recording clip. I got a little bored of working on the farm, so I did take quite a break. By quite a break, I mean a week. Yeah, that's right, in between these last couple clips. I waited an entire week before actually starting back on the project. Luckily, I was able to film a video during this time, so I shouldn't be late on posting, but still, it's kinda crappy that I took that break. But either way, I do not regret doing that because I had a lot of fun playing other games, but now it's time to get back to work in this project. Well, anyways, I've successfully caught myself up with everything I needed to do. As you can see behind me, I have my villager hall, and I do have bad omen, and by villager hall I of course mean my cage. But anyways, as I was saying, I'm ready to start a raid. Now, something else you may notice, well, is my bow is pretty much beyond repair at this point. You see, this would be the 4th time I've repaired my bow, and sadly that does mean it's become extremely expensive to repair, so sadly the Phantom 2022's Reign of Terror is now over. Now, when I was thinking about this, because I kind of got the last few shots of my bow out at that villager or pillager base, and I was thinking maybe I'd go for a crossbow this time, because I am going to go re-enchant me a ranged weapon, because previously, well, I didn't use crossbows just because I was afraid of running out of ammo, but I've been playing Fallout 4 recently, and I kind of realized that limited ammo in games isn't as big as a problem as you may think. Well, anyways, before I do start work on, well, actually catching the Ravagers, I do want to mention one last thing. I did have a couple big scares while I was collecting, well, all the stuff I needed for this one clip. The first one being when I loaded in, because I was actually in my villager hall repairing my tools before I went to the nether, I insta-died. I'm not sure how I did, but I insta-died. Luckily, I had a totem in my hand just like right now, so I am of course fine. But that was very scary. And I'm guessing either slime got to me while I wasn't looking, or I glitched. And I'm not sure which one it is, but either way that happened. So the other big scare is I got completely blindsided by a creeper when I was waiting around in the nighttime, and that got me down to like half a heart, but luckily I was fine there also. So really there's nothing to worry about. As you could probably tell by the crossbow in my inventory, as well as my drop in levels, I have finished enchanting me a crossbow, and right here is a Spectre 2023, which is an Unbreaking 3 multi-shot mending crossbow. So I was looking around, and I don't know if piercing or multi-shot was better. I ended up going for piercing, or multi-shot, sorry, just because I figured it would be a bit better for the scenario I'm in, but that varies. So for now, I'm just going to continue using this, and I can't believe I just missed the first shot. That is completely unbelievable. I just realized I am indeed missing an enchantment, Quick Draw, and that's definitely something I'm going to need to invest in at some point in the future, especially since I am getting absolutely demolished right now. And this is just the first wave. If I have to use a totem on the first wave, that definitely would be a shame, especially since I didn't bring any spares. But it looks like I'm fine. I completely forgot Quick Charge, which is unfortunate. If you have any recommendations for this, like what to pair with it, I know a lot of people use Fireworks when using this just because it does a bit more damage, but anyways, if you have any recommendations for that, leave it in the comments. But as for now, I'm just going to keep working with this. And if you don't know what I'm doing, I'm just capturing Ravagers for my farm, and if you haven't seen me do this already, then I'm just going to cover the next couple clips doing it. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to absolutely slaughter these dudes. One of them, I didn't even see the dude here. I'm down a totem, I'm out of here. I have to... I'm wearing my elytra. That... Oh no, I can't die here. I cannot die here. Whoo, that was close. Technically, I have a totem in my ender chest. It's just that got a little too close. Anyways, I'm going to be capturing a Ravager in these next couple clips. So, I need to fix up my inventory real quick first, though. The crossbow was sadly a bust, and if you're wondering why I took so much damage at that point, it was simply because I wasn't wearing my chestplate, I was wearing my elytra, which caused me to pretty much insta-die every time a Vindicator touched me. So the good news is I've sorted out the problems, and now it's time to actually start work on the raid. Luckily, this is pretty easy now that I have my chestplate on, and I'm just going to skip to the Ravager round. Alright, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Ravager round, which means I get to now promptly catch every Ravager in sight. So first off, something I'd like to mention is, turns out the crossbow was indeed useful. I ended up using it a couple of waves earlier during the witch round, where I very efficiently dismantled all 3 witches, considering they were all clumped together. So I take it back, this crossbow is actually somewhat decent. I'm struggling with Vexes because I did accidentally spawn them in. Typically I try to avoid that, because let's face it, they are a pure nightmare. They are truly the stuff of nightmares, considering they do as much damage as a Vindicator, and they also... Oh, how is that possible? They killed my... Oh, they killed my villagers. That is a disappointment, considering I'm gonna have to get more villagers. But I'm not too worried, considering I never killed the Ravagers in this round, meaning I still got the Ravagers out of this. So, yep, the Vexes did that, didn't they? So first off, let me sleep, because there's obviously nothing to wait here for. Bit of a disappointment, but now I have to find the Ravagers. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've lost a raid. I can't remember. Oh no, I'm 1 round early. Dang it, dude. That was not the Ravager round, but instead that was the round before it. So that is a little unfortunate. Now I'm gonna have to get more villagers, which is even worse. And now I know they can pierce walls. I can't let Vex spawn. Okay. This is difficult. Okay, so the boat I just randomly placed down in the last clip just saved my life, because a creeper came out from who knows where, and it got stuck in the boat before it could blow up so I could back out in time. So that was a little scary, but now I have to actually go get some villagers. But let's face it, I'm not going to go do that. I'm going to procrastinate for a bit. Alright, so finally I have caught up to exactly where I left off, just a bit better because I now have what was supposed to be a cube but is actually just a 5x4 rectangle. For some reason, for the life of me, I cannot seem to make a decent symmetrical square. I am now taking a huge amount of damage because I just realized I'm still not wearing my chest plate, because apparently I don't learn from my mistakes either. All is good though, because I have now fixed the problem and I could pretty much stand here forever without dying. Anyways, I am very, very confused right now because I just had a very, very bad start to what was supposed to be a normal clip, but unfortunately the pillagers did interrupt, but I don't really care about that. Basically what's going on here is there's a lava wall, because I figured since there's no block that blocks Vexes from going inside buildings, the next best thing I could do is just try to kill them on their way out. And on this raid, I'm not going to mess around with trying to, you know, get as many totems as I can. What I'm mainly going to do is just focus on getting the Ravagers, because that is my current goal, and I really can't afford to risk losing it because this is my last villager. Alright, if I'm not mistaken, this is the wave that I need to worry about because it has 2 Ravagers. There we go. Now, normally what I'd want to do is I'd want to wait till the last wave to catch an Evoker as well. Well, not catch one, but kill one. But the problem is I really, really don't want to risk another fiasco like last time, where I lost a totem and also lost quite a bit of villagers. Now, obviously, the first thing I'm going to want to do is take care of the stragglers. For some reason, I think it might have been with 1.20, but mobs are a lot more reluctant to go into boats, which makes doing this very, very difficult. But eventually I should get him into place. I really don't know what's going on. I genuinely think the update changed something, because they just don't want to go in boats. I did not mean to hit him there. But they used to go in so easily, like they used to just slide into the boats. Now I'm not even sure if it's possible. I'm starting to become very, very worried that Ravagers can no longer go in boats, because thinking back, the Ravager in my base also couldn't go in boats anymore, so I'm starting to think they may have removed that with 1.20, which is a very, very random update to add to the game, and very, very bad in my opinion. But there's nothing I could do about that now, so I'm just going to name these guys and get the heck out of here because I really need to sleep in a bed. I have an emergency bed somewhere around there, so that's where I'm going to be stopping. I have confirmed that it is possible to put a Ravager in a minecart, but it is incredibly difficult because I have also confirmed it's no longer possible to put him in a boat. Which obviously complicates things because now I'm limited to just moving them around via minecart. Luckily, I was smart enough to set up a system beforehand. For some reason, I cannot press this button because his hitbox is in the way. Basically, now this allows me to transport them back and forth. Obviously, the system isn't fully hooked up, but as for right now, I could get them into a cage and then push them out. So now I'm going to start this process and kind of store each Ravager. I may have made a mistake with the system by underestimating how much minecart powers, because I have a feeling that got tweaked as well because I was having issues with that as well. So I'm just going to go catch my other Ravager, kind of mess around with that, and hopefully things are okay. I've gone ahead and trapped both Ravagers, but thinking about it, now I think it's in my best interest on only using these two Ravagers on the actual farm. This does mean I'm going to have to configure the carts a bit more and spend a bit more gold as far as making the powered rails, but I think it's important that I do that just for my own sanity so I don't have to keep moving Ravagers around, as well as, well, just efficiency purposes. I mean, if I'm going to have to wrangle each Ravager into a minecart and move them around like that, it's definitely going to affect how much time it takes to build this farm, and unfortunately I spent a week off on working on this farm, which if I knew what I know now about the Ravagers, I definitely wouldn't have. But there's nothing I could do about that, so I am going to configure the carts so that I only need 2 Ravagers, but it is going to be annoying. Alright, before I get the Ravagers and track in place, there are a couple things I'd like to say. First off, yes, I was bored, so I started messing around with my skin again. That much is probably obvious. Next, it is getting so unbearably laggy here, it is probably best that I do stick to 2 Ravagers. And finally, I have added a few outcroppings here and there, so that I could reduce the amount of Ravagers I need. This does mean I need more powered rails, but at least, at the very least, there won't be as much lag in the area, so I'm okay with that. Anyways, now I'm going to get the rails down, and I'm going to start working on transporting these guys up here. Alright, after a lot of pain, I have gotten the Ravager into place, the first of which to get into the rails. Hopefully this goes smoothly, and I gotta say, I've never been mad at Mojang for an update, ever. Like, even with Netherite, I was actually okay with that. But this genuinely annoys me. Like, this makes transporting Ravagers so much harder. Oh, come on. Hopefully now I'll gather enough force to get... Okay, I'm gonna die at this rate. I feel like that was weaker than the last one. That definitely was weaker than the last one. I'm not gonna admit defeat. I'm not that kind of person. Go up! Go up! I did it! Oh, it almost killed me, but I did it. The Ravager is in place. Oh my god, that was bad. That was really bad. But I did what I wanted to do, and I am happy with that. So, I'm gonna call that a win, and now I have to move the second Ravager. You gotta be kidding me. I was so close, and the last one got stuck right there. Out of all the places... I hate this mob. Oh boy, this is driving me insane. Look at my armor. That's how long I've been doing this. This is full protection 4 Unbreaking Netherite. Yet somehow these things have managed to whittle it down that much. Typically transporting Ravagers is fun. Usually it's a breeze, but this is just something else. I don't know what to say. I'm genuinely so annoyed right now. I've been doing this for about an hour, and usually I spend about, like, okay, here's a bit of something, I guess, to say. Transporting the Ravagers and when I caught a dozen Ravagers during a video took about 3 days. Mind you, that was a dozen Ravagers, and I only played for about 2 hours each day, and that included the prep work, the raids, and all that. So you can imagine how long this is taking me. Why is he not... Finally, after a lot of hassle, I have gotten another Ravager in place. And the good news is I actually didn't have to get another Bad Omen because the raid was still running over there. So that's kind of good. But I'm tired and I almost died because I completely forgot I wasn't playing Fallout. And yes, I confused Minecraft with Fallout, don't judge me. And I pressed triangle instead of X for jump, which nearly killed me. And I messed up. Man, that seems to be a running theme lately. Anyways, ow. I am gonna try not to jack this one up too much because obviously we saw what happened to the last guy. It was not pretty. And he's in place now. Oh my god. After so much struggling. And this one actually went into the right area. I'm happy. I am genuinely happy. Oh, okay. I'm gonna clean this up and get this all sorted. After a bit of cleanup, the place is looking pretty good, and I am very happy that that section is done. This has been the single most frustrating thing I've had to do with a mob since the villager hall, and the villager hall was just... even thinking about it just makes me frustrated. But anyways, as I was saying, this was just... This was torture, honestly. I do not know why they don't let Ravagers and boats anymore. I liked having Ravagers and boats. It helped and it made it better. I'm not sure why they removed that. I'm not sure if this is only Bedrock or Java. But all I know is it caused me so much trouble. The good news is they are now in place and I don't have to worry about that anymore. And if you're wondering why I'm not in a better position to view them, it's because I'm wearing my Elytra and currently don't want to lose a totem. Anyways, now that they're done, I kind of have a few things to do, like build up some walls, maybe put up a bit of decoration, especially around this end. I am kind of afraid to touch that area because of the Ravagers, but I am personally pretty happy on how this is going. I mean, I've got a fair bit done, and obviously I have a bit more to do, but this is definitely a decent amount of progress. Now, you may notice I may be traveling in what looks to be a random direction, far away from all my buildings, and that is true. Where I'm heading right now is just, well, it's a random direction, but I'm looking for a mangrove swamp. Now, you're probably wondering why I need a mangrove swamp for a bamboo farm, but basically, a good alternative for glass in a bamboo farm, because if you don't know, you need very big glass walls to keep all the bamboo in place, is mangrove roots. They're transparent blocks, meaning the Ravagers won't suffocate in them, but also they won't break under the Ravagers', well, just ability to break leaf blocks and stuff like that, so it is a really nice alternative to glass considering it's not as expensive and it's a lot more common. But unfortunately, this world was made before 1.19, so I have to go away from my base in order to find a mangrove swamp, and I went in this direction because I know for a fact that I have a better shot finding one over here because this is an area I have not explored at all in my world. So I'm just going to keep looking for what I hope to be a mangrove swamp, see if I find anything interesting on the way there, and then hopefully get some mangrove planks for myself. And would you look at that? I was right. Not too far away. This is literally at most 2,000 blocks away from my industrial district. There is a mangrove farm, so now I'm just going to set up my little area. It's just going to be my shulker box, ender chest, and bed, and get to harvesting. I spent about 20 minutes here, and I can happily say I have a decent amount of both mangrove roots and mangrove leaves. You may be wondering why I grabbed leaves. That is because I'm going to be attempting to do something of a gradient on the build. Of course, I am bad at building, so it's going to end horribly, but I am okay with that, so I'm just going to go with my plan. Anyways, you may notice I have kind of devastated the forest over here, and that is because originally I was chopping down all the trees, but I realized for efficiency purposes, I'm not going to be able to do that. Mangrove trees grow in the worst possible pattern for chopping down, so that's just something I'm going to have to live with. I'm not going to do anything about it because I'm lazy though. So now I'm going to take my spoils back over to my industrial district, and then I'm going to actually start work on building. I'm glad to say I've made it safely back to my industrial district. I accidentally flew one rocket too far and ended up pretty far away from here, but I think it's time that I actually start working on this, and that may just come in the form of a building montage. Time lapse, I always get that wrong. It's obviously been a little while since I've done one of those, but still, it's nice to know that time lapses are still there. Anyways, I have gotten the bulk of this completed. Obviously, there's still scaffolding, which I've been using to get up and down it, as well as it's missing, well, the most of the design at the bottom and connecting it to the big building. If you're wondering, there is eventually going to be a giant build here. It's just I haven't yet come around to do it. Obviously, I am missing some points. I'm just waiting for all the bamboo to finish growing, and then I'll cover all this back up with bamboo. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. Now, it's obviously not the best gradient. It's not supposed to be. I didn't put that much time. I kind of just wanted to make it look like it's fading from the brown to the green and then all the way up to the bamboo. As I mentioned before, it is a little choppy, but I'm okay with that, and in my opinion, it looks pretty good. And it may be the ugliest thing in my world, but at least I tried something different and didn't really stick to the same thing I usually do. So, this is looking very good, and I still have very many elements to clean up on it, but I am still extremely happy with how this went. So now I kind of just gotta wait for the bamboo to grow, and then start hooking up this thing into here. So now that I think about it, I should probably do that while I'm waiting for the bamboo to grow, but I need to work on something to fix up the collection system and the Ravager area, so probably going to do a bit of redstone now. As mentioned previously, it was time to finish up the last important details of the farm, being the hopper system as well as the redstone. Now this was a bit more challenging, especially in the hopper system, just because, well, as usual, I messed up placement of the hoppers, as well as I was too lazy to want to set up a minecart system, so what I ended up doing is just spending a ton of iron and wood on making just a hopper line, which in the end of the day simplifies things, but then again, it does mean that it costs a bit more materials. So anyways, after that, I did start on the redstone system, which I will be hooking up to a clock that'll go off probably every 20 minutes. But the problem is I'm bad at redstone, so it's going to take me a little while to figure that one out. Alright, so I managed to get a system up that is, well, janky at best. But basically what's going on here is I have a hopper line that takes the results from up here down to here and then carries it through my old sorting system, which I've already gotten all set up. You may notice the road gets a little messed up here, and that's because, well, if you noticed, I used, oh my god, the lag is destroying my game. I used redstone blocks to power the powered rails up there, but my need to make builds symmetrical has sadly gotten the better of me in this situation, where I cannot put the hoppers here because they'll be powered by this block, meaning it'll freeze up the system. So I had to build this weird sort of awkward situation here, but I'm okay with that because there's nothing I could really do about it, and it made building up here so much easier, and personally I'd rather mess about with some hoppers than rails. So that is the gist of the hopper system. So now if we go up here, I have something that's essentially just a couple buttons and a handful of redstone that allows me to test out the farm. Basically I just press this button, it sends these guys flying, I wait a bit, and then I click that button down there, which allows me to collect it and test out the system. Now unfortunately the test for the hopper system successfully failed. It succeeded in the fact that the hopper system is working perfectly, but as you can see by the empty minecart behind me, the rest of the farm wasn't. I had placed some dirt on top of the mangrove just as a bit of scaffolding, and I completely forgot to remove it, and it suffocated the left Ravager. This one nearly died, but luckily by some miracle he survived. I'm not entirely sure what caused that, but I am happy about it. This does mean I am going to have to move yet another Ravager and move it into here, but to be frank, I'm not that worried about that. That's not the biggest issue. Well, anyways, if you're wondering what got the Ravager killed, it was, as mentioned before, the dirt. Technically speaking, I could have saved it by removing some of the dirt, which would have given it enough life to survive, but sadly, the lag that was produced by the nearby farms, as well as the fact that my blood sugar was extremely low when I was testing the farm, meant that I had virtually no reaction time and the Ravager kind of just died. So, that is, well, that is unfortunate, but there's nothing I can do about that, so I'm just going to kind of keep moving on and hopefully get this farm up and running. The good news is I've sort of gotten the bulk of the redstone system down, believe it or not, Basically, a redstone clock just has to go right here. I don't mean like a redstone clock as in it fires off a signal like an observer clock. I mean as in a actual clock that tells the time and then spits out a signal which then transmits to everything. I just realized I was struggling so hard on trying to think of how I could build an efficient one of those. I just need a daylight sensor. I just need a literal daylight sensor. A Minecraft day is about 10 minutes long, and that's like the perfect time for it. So that does solve my problem, so I'm glad about that. But unfortunately, as mentioned previously, I lost Ravager, so now I have to go catch another one. Before I do that, I of course have to check how well the farm did, and oh, it did pretty well. I mean, to be fair, I had harvested it pretty early before that, so I'd say that's a win. If my words don't make sense right now, please understand my blood sugar is still low and my brain just decided to check out. Alright, unfortunately I lost a little bit of a clip, but basically what's happening right now is I'm heading over to the Pillager Outpost to get me another Bad Omen, because unfortunately I do have to restart the entire raid in order to get another Ravager. Something I would like to mention is I changed my skin yet again, but that's just because Mojang just released a bunch of free stuff, and this jacket is probably the best free item I've seen ever for Minecraft PS4. This is, well, Bedrock on PS4 more specifically. But anyways, I really do like this, and this is very similar to what I would wear on Minecraft Java Edition. I do have a skin for that, even though I don't play Java Edition. Don't judge me too hard. I was very, very bored when I created that. I got him in the minecart, finally, and that took way more time than it had to, but it was easier than pushing him along in a stupid minecart the entire time. So I'd say that's a win. Now I'm gonna go get some healing potions because I'm afraid of that one dying on me. Why did my Electro not deploy? Anyways, I'm afraid of that Ravager over there dying on me, so I'm gonna grab some healing potions to hopefully fix him up. That way I don't have to worry about that. When I was coming here, I felt like I was missing a step, and I could not think of what I possibly could have been missing. And then as I flew over here, it hit me. I forgot to name the Ravager. This meant when I flew away, the stupid thing decided to despawn, which means I'm gonna have to go through all that trouble of getting it, naming it, and putting it back there again. So that stinks. Not to mention I was counting on myself having some glass here, but I actually didn't. So now I just gotta heal this guy, get me some glass for the daylight sensor, and catch me another Ravager. So that was a big waste of time, really. The good news is I already had the route down for these guys, so I knew exactly what to do when getting these things started, and I just realized I just started. Oh, well, that's not what I intended to do, but I'll just have to live with it. I meant to remove these, but I realized I'd have to remove them first, and I completely forgot to do that, so that is my bad. But now I could check if these guys are safe, which if I'm every time. Good news is I don't hear Ravagers dying, so I think that means that I've successfully managed to build the farm properly. Yes, it's my own model of farm, and yes, it took me a couple weeks to build, but we don't want to talk about that. You know what? I did good. This horrible excuse for a gradient and very bootlegged redstone system, I'm proud of it, okay? It took me all my brain cells to build this, so I'm gonna stand by it and say I did good. Thinking about it, I may have done something really stupid here, in the fact that I completely forgot that these update when you click on them, not when the daytime changes to night. They may actually still update during that, but I'm not entirely sure. So, what I could do actually, just as a very quick remedy that I quite literally just thought of on the spot, just attach one of these, could shift it to night real quick, and then attach an observer, and basically just bring this one redstone piece out. And the reasoning for that is now it will only fire when that redstone piece is updated, and that redstone piece will be updated when the day or night cycle is changed. I accidentally did that. What I meant to do was this, and now we have a working system. So now the next thing I'm going to want to do is actually use stone. Well, I like to use stone as much as I can because it looks better, but it may be a little wiser to save my stone for when I actually need repeaters soon. But basically what I'm going to do is I need to block down to here, and basically after that I need to get a very long repeater chain going. After much confusion, I've finally got something of a system down, where basically what's going to happen is it's going to be at night, but I'm going to demonstrate during the day. Basically this thing is going to update. So this turns on, which means the Ravagers fire off, which also sends a signal down there, which fires the minecarts prematurely. Of course it does. Okay, I may have messed up a bit. No, I haven't. Repeater signals just aren't as long as I thought they were. That is definitely a shame. But if, now that I think about it, that will work, because will these not stay powered? Yeah, they will, but they won't be able to... Ow. Okay, basically what's going to happen is during nighttime, everything's going to be running, meaning the collection system and the Ravagers are going to be on their minecarts moving around. And in the morning, everything will stop and everything will go back to normal. So this is the best way I could figure it out, just because I am not good at redstone. I've mentioned it very many times, and apparently I'm not good at climbing these either while I'm talking, because I can't focus long enough to actually land on the dang thing I'm trying to go to. Anyways, as I mentioned before, I am not good at redstone. I never was and I never will be. This is the best thing I'm going to be able to create, and frankly I am satisfied with it. I have no need to create anything further, so I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously this will be set to nighttime mode, so I don't really have to worry about this working. The only issue I might face is I might have to deal with clogging. I am not sure if that's going to be a huge problem or not. Maybe it won't be, maybe it will. But I doubt much crop will be growing at night, so I'm going to call that a success. Well, anyways, now it's time to start doing the part that I could do with some confidence, which is building, which personally I've been actually looking forward to this, because ever since I did this very sloppy brown to green to lighter green gradient, I have been super excited to start building, because believe it or not, despite this, well, I can't call this a gradient because it's not, but despite that, I somehow pulled it off and I actually like the way this looks. You may not, I completely understand, it's a little weird, but I do like it. It kind of gives me like a sort of like jungle sort of vibe, you know? So I'm going to continue this sort of theme with a lot of woods, a lot of colors like that. But of course, I actually need to gather the materials for this. I've gotten a fair bit of wood, but as always, this probably isn't enough to complete the build. And mind you, I am going to need a couple other blocks to finish this. But I'm not going to worry about that right now, and I'm just going to start on, well, what's going to be the bottom part, which is just covering up all this mess of hoppers that's right here. It's been a fair minute since the last clip, and that's just because I was having some technical difficulties and couldn't really record, but basically I'll give you a quick rundown of what happened. First off, I finished the base of the build. As you can see, it's kind of just a lot of spruce mixed with moss and more spruce, and up there actually is going to be some more moss, along with some bamboo and some fences, but I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. Something I would like to mention is, you probably noticed this, obviously this part isn't covered up yet, and that's simply because this is me we're dealing with. I completely forgot to remove a whole layer of dirt, and as such the Ravager just got sent in and out repeatedly, eventually dying. Alright, I then spent a good 30 minutes working on the next part, and I know what you're thinking, why on earth would you spend 30 minutes on working on literally the most basic thing you've ever seen? And my answer is very simple. First off, as I mentioned before, this is a very simple box that's just going to serve the purpose of quite literally covering the Ravagers, even though it does an extremely poor job at that. And basically I could just access the redstone from here, and that's really it. I'm not going to be covering it up simply because if I wanted to turn this on, I could. It's just that easy. But no, the real reason I was having issues is actually over there. This item sorter that I built so many videos ago just decided to go on die on me. For whatever reason, I am not entirely sure why, the sorter just simply stopped working. I had no idea how to fix it, and I ended up just removing the poppy sorter that was initially here. Now this does mean I'm no longer producing bone meal in bulk, but the good news is I now have a mob farm, so that can take really the full force of that now. But I think it had something to do with the bamboo. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure this bamboo was simply overloading the system, and it could not handle how much items are being filtered through, and just started dumping it into that hopper right there, which then caused an overflow into my iron chest. I also found a lot, and I mean a lot of items on this back row, which I have no clue how they got there considering most of them were in here. But the good news is, I think I fixed it, and the only places I was having problems were these first two chests. Now the next course of action would be to fix the fact that this building is floating, and I think I have a bit of an idea for this. I present this. Yeah, before you get mad at me, let me just say something real quick. You have every right to be mad at me, because this is the single worst thing I've ever built. But let me explain. This is a support, a single lopsided support. That is all. That's what it is. Eventually, this will be connected to a rather large build that's over here, but unfortunately, that build is simply not going to be done in this video. So for now, that'll do, and that'll be a sort of placeholder. Now, I really don't have anything else to do on this build except for the roof, but I think you guys will be excited to see the roof because hopefully it will be the redeeming feature over whatever the heck this is. Alright, so the first step for actually designing the roof is filling the entire thing, and I mean the entire thing, up with dirt, and you may be questioning why, and there's a very simple answer to that. Well, first off, it can't be grass, because as we all know, that would completely break my passive mob grinder downstairs. And second off, it's not going to stay dirt. And no, I'm not going to be doing a magic trick to turn this into mud, although I do kind of want to now that I've said it. But what I'm actually going to be doing is I am going to be turning all this into moss. Now you're probably wondering, why moss? Well, it's a good alternative to grass, and since I can't use grass, it obviously is ideal. And second off, I want a little bamboo garden or forest or grove or whatever. I want some bamboo growing up here. And that's because I think it'll really just finalize the build for me. So obviously the slabs in the corner are basically just so that when I bone meal everything, I don't have to worry about the moss spreading to all the parts that I just built, because as far as I know, moss cannot spread to slabs. Alright, now that the dirt's in place, I think it's time for the fun part, which is just spreading the moss everywhere! Moss! No, seriously, I really do love this block, and I would gladly, what did I do? You know what? That's fine. This is fine. I'm just going to spray as much bone meal until this place looks nice and green. And then I think that would be a fitting end for this build. And as you can see, yep, the moss is not spreading past this area, which is very nice. I went ahead and bone mealed the entire thing, and let's see what it looks like from the outside, and it actually looks pretty good. Ignore my hideous gold farm. There we go. I'm happy with this. This looks so... I don't know how to describe it. It actually looks good. Obviously, the backside isn't the prettiest side of the build, but I can't really view it from the front due to all the buildings I have here. But I am really happy with that. Something I do want to check real quick is while I was working on that, I experienced my first night with the system running, the new fixed one, and it appears everything ran smoothly. Let me just double check this up here. It is working, and sugarcane and bamboo got plenty of profits. Yep, so I think that means that this is finished. I just have to clean up a bit of scaffolding. I was just about to film my outro when all of a sudden I realized I had a bad omen effect, and I now have raiders sitting on top of my brand new build that I was about to do my outro on. So obviously now I gotta clean these guys up before I do an outro. To say that was an interesting end to the video would be an understatement, considering when I was fighting them, I completely forgot that Ravagers destroy plant-based items, even though this whole video was about the fact that Ravagers can destroy plant-based items. So while I was up here, the Ravagers decided, I know, I'm gonna carve a path right through his brand new rooftop garden. Yup. The entire back of this is it's a dump, really. All over there, I don't want to move too much because I am in second person, but all over there is just, it's a wreck. And unfortunately, while I was cleaning out my inventory, I decided to throw my bone meal into the abyss. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting end. But regardless, that's all I have for this video, and I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, consider leaving a like or maybe subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.